Hello everybody, Happy New Year. First video of the year. And I wanted to finally get around to doing my recap video to go over everything that we harvest last garden season. And the way I do that, during the season I just write it in my journal, handwritten notes, really messy. And then at the end of the season, I add it to my spreadsheet and if I can, this is what it looks like. This is what I'm going to read off of for the video. But I'll throw it up on screen just to give you guys an idea of what I do. So I basically have all of the different crops that I've grown over the years, because I don't grow the same things every year. And then I have a column for each year. And I've only started doing this since 2020. The rest, it was kind of rough. And I used to track it by number of items harvested, like X tomatoes, X beans, X whatever it was. But then my husband got me a little scale a couple of years ago. So I've only started, this year I've actually measured quantity as well as the weight. And I'm probably going to do that for a couple of years, and then I'll just do solely by weight, just because it makes more sense to do that. So let's get started. And I've got it alphabetical, so we're just going to go through and we'll see how we did. Now, little reminder, we all know that I had a soil issue this year. There were new beds. Some of the raised beds that we had were new. We put wood and branches and logs at the bottom. We filled it up with soil. But that first year, even last year, I had the same issue with those first beds. They didn't produce as much. My belief is that because the wood is still breaking down, it wasn't old wood, it leaches the nitrogen from the soil, and that takes it away from the plants that you're growing. Anywho, next year's going to be fine. But this year we had some problem areas, but we'll get to those. All right, here we go. Arugula, I grew that only in the spring, and I had 9 cups of it. So, like the greens, I'll usually do either by cups or heads if I'm harvesting the heads of different types of lettuces. Otherwise, I'll just go roughly by cups. I didn't weigh them. So arugula was 9 cups. That was pretty standard based on previous years. The best year we ever had was in 2021, where we had like 46 cups, where we went bonkers with arugula. Anyway, but 9 cups, was it enough? No, I would have preferred to have a little bit more, but it was okay for the first time growing it in our new house. All of the herbs, I typically don't measure those either, because I go out there so often and just snip a few things and use it for cooking. But we did grow Genovese basil, ate lots of it fresh throughout the season, made pesto, and that was successful. They grew really well. We had all of the herbs on containers on the deck, and that went well, comparable to previous years. The other, I grew Thai basil. I grew the plant, but I never harvested it, it defeats the purpose somewhat. The bees loved it. But I just never got around to harvesting it. And my goal of growing Thai basil was to harvest the basil to make basil fried rice, which is one of my favorite Thai dishes. And I never did it. Shame on me. So I don't know if I'm going to grow it again next year. If I do, I have to have the discipline to actually use it, harvest it and use it in my cooking. Anywho, pole beans were pretty good. I had two different types. I had Blue Lake, which I grow every year, and the Scarlet Runner bean, which was new for me this year. 963 beans, which converts to 5,093 grams. That's a lot of beans. It's the second highest harvest of beans that I've ever had, which is awesome. The one thing that I noticed was that the Blue Lake produced a lot more than the Scarlet Runner. So although those red flowers of the Scarlet Runner beans were amazing to look at outside the window and in the garden, they're beautiful. But I think in terms of production and volume, the Blue Lake did better. So I'm probably just going to grow those going forward, which is, you live and you learn. It was fun to try something new. So that was pole beans. Bok choy, I grew that in the spring, and I only had 17 little heads. I didn't weigh those either. I harvested those before I remembered I had a scale in the kitchen. Anyway, so 17. Best year of that, we had grown 28, and they were massive. That, again, 2021 was my banner year for gardening. It was the best year that we've ever had. And nothing different, just actually no, it was 2020 with 38 bok choy, 28 and 28, 21, and then 12 and 10, and then none last year. So 17, not bad, but they could have grown bigger. Again, they were all grown in one of the beds that had a soil issue. So, next year, I'm going to grow it again. We'll do it again next year, and we'll see what it looks like then. But 17 little bok choys, we added them to stir fries and just chopped them up, and they were really good. So that was good. Grew borage, again, that was grown on the deck in a container. It bloomed, the bees loved it. I tasted the flower, tasted cucumbery, which is in line with what people have said, but I didn't do anything else with it. So I don't think I'm gonna grow that again. Although it was pretty, well, the flowers were pretty. The plant is, it's not the prettiest plant out there, except for the flowers. The flowers are awesome and the bees love it. But I have a pollinator garden for the bees. So I don't know, I don't think I'm gonna be growing that again. All right, Napa cabbage, that's like Oriental cabbage, Chinese cabbage. They were small again, but again, they were in the same bed as the bok choy. We had, how many? 13 little heads, not even heads, they're like little sprout things. We ate it, it was fine. I'll probably grow that again once the soil issue has stabilized, but it's part of my find new greens to eat, just to add some variety to our diet. So that was fine. Carrots were actually quite good. I grew the little ones, the little finger carrots, where they don't really get bigger than like a 4 to 6 inch, very slim carrot. We had 388 of those, which was great. We had a lot of carrots. I've already bought my seeds for next year. That'll be in another video coming up soon. And I'm growing Mokum, which has always been very successful for me. A little bit larger than the little finger. And what was the other one? Negovia? I think that's what it was. Anyway, I've never grown that one, so we'll see how that goes next year. Carrots were a success. Chamomile, that just grows in a pot and it comes back every year, and I grow it to dry it for herbal tea. That was fine. I got 2 tea tins full of dried chamomile flowers, which is awesome. So that went well, standard compared to previous years. Chives, it was the first time that I had grown it, or first time in a while, because I remember growing chives years ago. And that went really well. I snipped throughout the season, and then at the end of the season, I just harvested everything, chopped them up, and threw them in a Ziploc bag and put them in the freezer. And then anytime I need them, I just open the bag, grab a handful, throw it in my cooking, and we're good to go. And I have a whole Ziploc bag full of those, so that went well. Garlic. I'm trying to remember now because I already have my new garlic in, but we're thinking prior to that. I had planted Russian red, which we always do, and there was another one, Siberian. Siberian never came up, but it was only, I don't know, maybe a dozen, which is fine. All the Russian red came up. We had 56 bulbs, 56 garlic scapes, and then 56 bulbs harvested, but they were small. Again, soil issue, new bed, it's all good. At least we got 56 bulbs of garlic, which I'm not going to complain about. So that went well. Green onions. This one I had 131 grams, and I see that I forgot to add the number of green onions, which is fine. And that I do the same thing. So if I need any throughout the season, I'll go and I'll pick one and then chop it up and use it. At the end, I harvest everything and then chop them up and throw them in a Ziploc and put them in the freezer. So I've got chives in the freezer and green onions in the freezer. So green onions went well. The kale I seeded quite late. And then it got cold. I've left them out there. I don't think they're going to survive the winter, but I'm going to try it again in the spring. Lemon balm, again, that was an herb that I grew on the deck. I got 1 tea tin of dried lemon balm leaves for tea. So that was fine, and that was typical compared to previous years. Now, all the lettuce, I grew Butter Crunch, which was and I've grown that for years. It's heat resistant, so it takes long to bolt. It does well in the spring and the fall. It's a beautiful lettuce, very versatile. Anyway, so I harvested 4 cups plus 20 heads. I got to the point where there was so much of it I just grabbed. I was just yanking full heads out of the garden, which was awesome. And total of 1,609 grams, which is a lot of lettuce. And that's just one type. I also grew corn salad, which is like a small, like a mosh type of salad, type of lettuce. I had 12 heads of that. Though those are smaller, so 12 heads of that at 519 grams. I grew romaine, but I only grew like 2 because they were the only 2 seedlings that actually survived. My cat's about to jump down here. If you see a tail go by, you'll know what it is. You can't come down here. You can't come down here. We're busy. So 2 heads of romaine, 150 grams. They were small. 6 heads of the Grand Rapids, which is that frilly, light green frilly lettuce, which I loved. I thought that was the first time growing it. It was fantastic. Love it. Going to do that again. 222 grams of that. The melon, that I tried, that I was so hoping to be optimistic for, nothing. But again, I sowed them in one of the beds that were new that had the soil problem. So will I try again? Probably. But I'm so determined to grow this stuff, you guys. I'm on a mission now to grow melons successfully. We'll see. Mint, 2 tea tins full, because I dry that also for tea. That was in containers on the deck. Onions. All right. So it was the first year that I grew onions, not like green onions, like full-size onions. I had Sturon and a red onion, which I can't remember the name of. And it was in a bed that was new, soil issue. All of the new beds had the same soil issue this year. So they're kind of getting a pass. And I harvested 10 little red onions. I seeded them as onion sets. And then I had 10 little red onions. And then 25 slightly larger but really small of the Sturon, which is a yellow onion. So do we have onions? Sure, but they're almost like shallot size. They're not full-sized onions that you can use. Well, we still use them. We chop them up. I just use 2 or 3 of them instead of just one onion that you would normally use. So it was good to get into the swing of growing an onion, what it looks like, what it's supposed to look like. But it is what it is. First time growing it, we actually got something out of it, so it's not a total loss. Parsley, all I wrote were 2 huge harvests and fresh use throughout the season. And it went well. I mean, I grew more parsley than I had intended. I had sown some in one pot. Then I wanted to sow dill. I grabbed the wrong bag out of my herb. Note to self, mark label your seeds. Anywho, and then I ended up growing a lot more parsley than planned, but I made a lot of tabbouleh out of it, so that's all good. All right, peas. I grew, oh my gosh, snow peas in the fall, sugar snap peas in the fall. Let me start with spring. Okay, so our sugar snap peas in the spring, which I always grow. We had 612 pods, which is 2,801 grams, which is good. Not my best, but that's because did I only grow half? No, that was a full sowing. So didn't do as well as past years, but we got peas, so that's okay. And then we had a pea drama situation about the peas that actually grew did not match what was on the packet. I'll put a link to that drama video down below if you wanted to take a look at what happened there. But we actually got some of those. It was 141 pods grown, harvested as snow peas before they even matured. And then, I don't have a number, but I have 201 grams where I harvested them and you couldn't eat the pods, so you had to shell them. Anyway, I'm not even paying attention to that. We're going to just ignore that debacle ever happened. So the sugar snap peas in the spring went well. I grew snow peas in the fall. We had 147 pods, 333 grams of that, it was okay. It got cold really quick, so I feel like that kind of impeded things. And I also grew more sugar snap peas in the fall, 91 pods, 270 grams. Not great. But if you put it all together for the year, it's decent. All right, so that was peas. Potatoes. And I see that I didn't put a number, but I ended up, first time growing potatoes, I planted the Russet Burbank seed potatoes, and it was so exciting. It was probably one of the most exciting things to pull out of the ground to see what was under there. It was like buried treasure. It was awesome. Ended up harvesting 4,637 grams, which is, it's like 4.5 kilos of potatoes, which is awesome. And they were so good. They were probably a little bit small, but it was good. And I'm probably going to try it again, maybe with a different variety or two next year, just to see how it went. Just to see, or do something different. So that was a success. Radishes. Radishes. I grew radishes in the spring. I grew them in the fall. All I got out of that whole thing was one radish. It was a beautiful radish, like the most perfect radish you can ever see. But for whatever reason, it didn't grow well. And again, I planted both in 2 different beds, but 2 different, both with the same soil issue. In previous years, if I go back to my previous years, in 2020, we got 68 radishes. 2021, we got 72. 2022, we got 124. That was a big radish year. And then 73 in 2023. We didn't grow any last year, but totally not in line with previous experience. But it's all good. Some things do well one year, some things don't do well. And because of my soil issue in some of those beds, all of those, anything that didn't perform as well just gets a pass this year just because of that problem. Next year will be fine. Rosemary, I grew also on the deck. I had 2 big plastic bags full of it at the end of the season, and then I used fresh throughout the year. And I loved it. It was the first time that I actually grew rosemary, and it was really, really good. So I'm probably going to start using that more and more in my cooking as well, because we really enjoyed it. Spinach, this is the regular spinach. Harvested 4 cups of that, which was low. But I also didn't plant as much. I didn't do a whole bed of spinach. I just did like a half. 4 cups is probably a little bit small. Past years, we got about 12 cups of it. So not great, but it was okay. The New Zealand spinach, which is one that I was trying last year in the hopes of finding a green that does well over the hot summer months. And we got tons of it. 906 grams plus 5 heads, which I just pulled out. But we didn't really like it. So, I mean, yeah, it did okay. It grew fine. It didn't bolt quickly. Like, it took a long time. It grew in the summer. But it got those little spiky pods, which I get are the seeds for the next year, but it just made it very difficult to harvest around those. I'm probably not going to grow that again. It tasted okay, but I feel like there's better options out there. And we'll get into that when I do my video about what I'm growing in 2026, because I have new options. All right, thyme, again, an herb grown on the deck in a container, did amazingly well. I had tried growing thyme several years ago in a previous house, and it didn't do well, but this one did amazingly well. It looked like a shrub. It was fantastic. And we got, again, 2 big plastic bags. And by plastic bags, you know those produce bags you get at the supermarket that you put your fruit in? I reuse those, and I store my herbs in them. I don't seal them shut. I just loosely knot them after I dry them, and I just keep them in there in the pantry. So it was 2 big bags of thyme for that, and used fresh throughout the season. So that was a success. I was really happy with how the thyme did because of my previous, not failure, but unimpressive turnout, let's say. Cherry tomatoes. Just going in, I knew few weeks after transplanting my seedlings and seeing how those plants were doing, again, new bed, soil issue, I knew it wasn't going to be a good tomato year. But again, you win some, you lose some. We only got 464 cherry tomatoes, which came out to 24.93 grams. But 464 with the same number of plants compared to my banner year for tomatoes was in 2021, which was 4,051 tomatoes. I used to average about, I'm looking at the previous years, 1277, so 2,164, 1608, 1264. So 464 is probably my least performant tomato harvest based on the number of plants that I had ever. But you know, again, gets a pass, bed with new soil. So it's all good. It's not like I'm not going to grow tomatoes next year. Like, we're obviously going to grow tomatoes. We grow them every year. But it wasn't as good a harvest. We got tomatoes. We enjoy them in the meals that we usually make with that. We have this pasta dish that we make throughout the summer. And we enjoyed it. It was fine, but much fewer than previous years. It happens. We had one slicer tomato in there. It was a celebrity tomato, I believe. We only got like 3. It was in the same bed. So that was, the whole tomato bed was a bit of a slight disappointment, because we still did get some, but not compared to what we're used to. Turnips, we got 52. They were smaller than I've had in the past. 1,362 grams. We've had around 50, about 50 in the past, 50, 49 based on, and we got 52, which is actually pretty good, but I think that was in a full bed. Or was it in half? No, it wasn't half a bed. My beds are all 2 by 8. So when I say half a bed, that's 8 square feet, 2 by 8. So it's 2 by 4. Yeah, 8 square feet. So growing 52 turnips in that much space is actually pretty good. Our blueberries did well. So those were all the raised beds. Now we also have berries in the raised beds. We have 4 raised beds for blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, blackberries. So our blueberries did really well. They produced great. I think we planted them last year, early in the spring. They produced last year about 4 cups, but I didn't have a weight. This year we had 1,098 grams, and it was good. Like, we were happy with that amount of blueberries. And it was their second year in our garden, so that was good. The raspberries didn't do that well this year. Well, one of them did. It was very strange. We have one raspberry, which is a patio size, a very small one, and then the other one, which is a heritage, a normal sized shrub. And the heritage just took forever to produce berries. It was there. The bush was healthy. It grew. And then it just took forever for flowers to form, berries to ripen. I mean, I was still picking raspberries in like end of October, November. It was so strange. Anyway, so we had 149 raspberries, which is 182 grams. Last year, we only had a handful because it was the first year that we had planted them. I'm expecting next year to be better, but we'll see. Strawberries was amazing. Last year, when we planted them, we got about 4 cups. This year we had 479 strawberries. So I realize how tedious this sounds about counting every strawberry, but I just count them as I bring them into the house, as we harvest them. And then that amounted to 3,180 grams. So that's like 3 kilos of strawberries, which was amazing. They did really, really well. And now they have little baby plants, so there's going to be more plants in that bed. This is going to be, was the first year, second year, third year. So I'm probably going to have to do a little bit of a cleanup next year, but we'll let them go. Blackberries, these ones, we planted them last year. We only had a few ripen, had a few berries last year. This year we only had 7, but it looked promising. Like, there's growth there. There were blooms. There were full-size berries on there. I'm hoping that next year we're going to get a decent showing. If not, we're probably going to pull it. We only have 2 blackberry bushes and maybe put more blueberries out. We'll have to see. But because they produced and it looked promising. They looked like they were, growing. They're growing branches, everything looked good. So we're probably going to give them a pass this year, see how they do next year, and then make a decision on what to do. So those are the berries. And then our trees, the only one that actually produced fruit was the peach, which is an Alberta peach. We got 7 peaches. They were so good. They were smallish. It's the second year in our garden. But they were so good. It was so nice to have them from the tree. There was 1 apple, but it got stolen by a critter. But at least we know that it produces, so that's okay. Next year will be good. Nothing else produced. We had to replace 2 of our trees. One nectarine didn't make the winter last year. We replaced it this year. It came with fruit on it, but the critters got to them. There was like maybe 4, and then the critters got to them, which is fine. And then we had to replace our plum tree, and we replaced it with a multi, with a, what is that word called? It's grafted with a bunch of different kinds on it. So there's like 4 different kinds of plum, which I'm kind of excited to see what happens next year when it blooms. It's going to be wild. Anywho, so of the fruit trees, we got 7 peaches in our second year little mini orchard out there. So I feel like it's actually pretty good. And it's just going to get better from here on out. So I'm optimistic for that. So all in all, I think it was a good garden year based on the new expanded space that we have. All the herbs did well on the deck. Certain things did really well, like the carrots and the potatoes was exciting. The berries did well. But the soil issue kind of put a damper on half of the things that I grew. But, that's gardening. You can't win them all. You're basically dealing with, Mother Nature and weather and soil and whatnot. And if all the stars align, you get an awesome harvest. But if there's little patches here and there, you just, go with it, roll with the punches. Next year will be better, and just focus on the positive. So that is the recap. I'll put my whole table up on my blog with the comparatives, just so you can see how things looked. But it's, you know what, we're happy. I'm happy that I have this much space to grow in the new house, which is awesome. And it's only going to get better from here. Like I'm optimistic. I feel good. I'm already thinking about next year. I've already bought my seeds. I'm starting my planning. And I'll take you through that as well, about what I'll be growing next year. But I didn't want to give a recap because I do it every year. And it's fun. I like tracking it so that I know what's normal, because you forget from year to year, like how many carrots did we eat last year? And I just like tracking it because I'm a planner and I like to track those things. So I hope that you're thinking about your garden for next year. I hope your garden was successful, and in the areas, if it wasn't successful, I hope you learned some things, which is always the goal. It's always a plus. Nothing is ever lost. If there's something that goes wrong, just take the lessons from it and go with the flow. All right, guys, happy gardening, and I will see you in the next video.